As I dug deeper into Ma Rainey's story, turns out there were a few details that could use a little clarity, including one about a wild sex party and a night in jail. I know, right? I told you I had the tea. Thought I was lying?
It's rumored that Ma Rainey coined the phrase "the blues." I guess it's debated. If you know, where did that rumor come from, and is there any truth to it?
I have no idea, and I don't think it's true.
You don't think it's true? Okay.
They say that Ma Rainey started the blues, or that she coined the phrase. Is that true, false, or do you not know?
The term "the blues" was coined before Ma Rainey, but I think she gave it the foundation. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Rumor is that she basically started the blues.
Right.
But they want to call me Mother Blues. That's all right with me. It don't hurt none.
I've always said, and some people, I guess, don't like it when I say it, but the history of music in America is the history of Black music in America.
Right, right.
So this actually surprised me during my research. Queer African-American woman who, saved the blues or something like that. So I was reading the article and it said, she was married, but it also rumored that she had a relationship with Bessie Smith, and something about their relationship and some sort of crazy party that they had led to the recording of a record called Prove It On Me. So could you tell us about all of those things?
Well, what you just said sounds pretty good. So it's certainly a part of it.
Okay.
Let's just say that Ma Rainey had she had a diversity of interest when it came to romantic partners.
Her sexual identity was very fluid.
Yeah, I still get blown away by it.
She was very brave about, her sexuality.
Do you know the story behind Put It On Me Blues?
I don't know the Put It On Me Blues, the whole story, but I know some of the verses and lyrics of her songs. She talked about, I went out with a group of people last night, must have been women because I don't like men. And if you do some research, she was arrested in Chicago with a bunch of women partying, and Bessie Smith had to come and bail her out of jail. And that's kind of her lifestyle, but she was unapologetic. She would not apologize for her life.
A Black woman in the 20s to be so confident in her lifestyle. It's kind of refreshing, but altogether shocking.
No, I don't think so. I mean, it was the 20s, the roaring 20s. That whole period of time was not maybe as conservative as people seem to think it was.
Basically, she made her own rules. She lived life the way that she wanted to live.
They say that she single-handedly saved Paramount Records.
Well, let's go back. Really, Paramount Records started as a furniture company in Wisconsin.
They say that she single-handedly saved Paramount Records from going under.
Yeah, it's another one of those tall tales.
Is it?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Well, tell me about it.
Okay, well, Paramount was a division of the Wisconsin Chair Company, which was a company that made furniture. Okay. More than chairs.
Exactly what they sound like, right?
And one of the things that they started making was phonographs. And if you bought a phonograph from the Wisconsin Chair Company, you would get a group of 5 or 10 records as a bonus. And so they started their own recording company so they could cheaply produce the records that they gave away when somebody bought a phonograph.
I mean, they had so many irons in the fire. She wasn't the only one that Paramount signed. So I think it was an array of African-American singers who saved Paramount. I think they did capitalize on the blues and the African-Americans who were singing the blues.
Are there any other myths or misconceptions about Ma Rainey that you know of that you would like to debunk right now?
One of the things that, I think people don't realize, I don't know if it's a myth, she was the only person in history that's been inducted to the Blues Hall of Fame and also the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Still to this day?
To this day.
What impact did Ma Rainey have on other performers of that time?
She became a businesswoman and started investing in other performers, encouraging other performers, and sort of becoming a mentor to people like Bessie Smith.
She was a major influence on all kinds of other musicians. For instance, I've read when you saw Louis Armstrong perform on stage, it was like looking at Ma Rainey. And he had been an understudy to her. He was in one of her bands for a long time. And he adapted some of her mannerisms and some of her presentation styles and sort of took them as his own.
If you knew the blues, you had to really come through Ma Rainey, Bessie Smith, Thomas Dorsey, Louis Armstrong. It was just so many blues legends that performed with Ma Rainey.
This was also the era of the Great Migration. And if you were in the music business, you were moving to Chicago. During this time period where Ma Rainey went to Chicago and she met and worked with Louis Armstrong, and Louis Armstrong performed in her band. Another guy that really had a huge impact on American music, world music, was her band leader, a man named Thomas A. Dorsey.
Thomas Dorsey was a piano player, very good looking, and he's from Dureyea, Georgia.
His father was a minister. His mother was an organ player in the church, but he left Dureyea. They met up.
He played with her and traveled with her, performed wonderfully well. I think he was the band leader, but he was also her confidant.
Okay.
She trusted him because if you go back and do some research, he sought out musicians. He helped her do contracts with them. He was very involved and she trusted him a lot. They were more like a family than just a band leader or musician. And Thomas Dorsey, I read somewhere, he said, after performing with Ma Rainey, it was nowhere else to go but to the Lord.
Okay.
Now you can take that for what you want, but you know.
But ultimately, Thomas A. Dorsey, over the years, would go back and forth from secular blues to Christian music. But it was the influence of the blues that caused him to start writing in this new way for churches. And that new way of writing music for church is called gospel.
He went back to his roots. He went back to the church. He became a minister and a musician, and he sung and preached all over the country.
Until Thomas A. Dorsey came around, nobody clapped in church, nobody stood up, nobody danced, nobody stomped or anything like that. Here's Ma Rainey, the mother of the blues, and here's Thomas A. Dorsey, the father of gospel music. And it's their relationship that made these two American art forms flourish. Whether people know it or not, a lot of young musicians are coming back to this basic 1-4-5 chord progression of the blues. At some point, whether it's an R&B musician, a young rock band, they're probably going to have a song like C.C. Ryder in their repertoire.
And she was the first to record that?
It was her song.
Ma Rainey owned property. She had a touring band. She was a businesswoman. Even before Paramount, people think that when she left Columbus at 18, it was all recordings and that. But she stood on her feet till Paramount came to her.
But if you look at her life as she goes on, she became a businesswoman. And ultimately, she bought and operated movie theaters, because movie theaters, particularly in the South, where there was Jim Crow segregation, Black citizens could not go to the main theaters that the white theater owners had created, but she built theaters in Black neighborhoods for her people.
We were doing some research because in a lot of her autobiographies and things that's written, they say that Ma Rainey owned some theaters in Rome and in Columbus, and especially Rome, Georgia. And this is something that, we can't prove, but it's that she owned them, and they couldn't find records of her actually owning them. But I think because she was Black and a woman during the time, they might have been owned in someone else's name, and she ran them. She actually owned them, but she couldn't put them in her name.
I'm glad that we're not in that kind of time anymore.
Oh, it's come a long way.
Is there anything that you want the viewers to know about Ma Rainey?
I want people to look at her in her life. I want people to judge her for what she did in her life, for the ways that she made music, the open the doors for African American entertainers. And I just think we need to give her credit for being, first of all, a great musician, a great songwriter, a business person, and a performer who was not afraid to live her life.